How we doing out there, everybody? Happy to be with you guys here for another video week. This starting our sixth week of the term. So last week we started our poetry unit with you guys reading the selections and posting a recommendation based on those selections for for a friend who's maybe not uh, well versed, pardon the pun, or even just interested in poetry, or someone who doesn't like poetry, poems from the unit that you would recommend that they read if they want to know more poetry, get exposed to more poetry, and some poems that might support their initial distaste for poetry. Like the poems from the unit that, if you don't like poetry, oh, it's because of techniques or styles like these poems. And I enjoyed reading what you guys had to say. I was actually surprised by a few of the uh, selections for poems not worth reading, or poems that someone who doesn't like poetry, it's because of poems like this. Some of them were interesting selections, and I enjoyed your honesty and sense of humor. Some of you posted in that discussion. Your first analysis essays are also graded on your two short stories that you did a comparative analysis on. Those are returned. We will have an opportunity to improve. So if you didn't get the grade you want, or if you ever questioning why you got a certain grade, I'm happy to talk with you about it. Just as long as when you engage me via email correspondence, if you could just remember to be courteous and polite when you ask, why did I get what I got, or would you mind explaining further this rubric category? But I'm happy to talk with you about it, and there will be, after we do our second analysis essay, which will be on two poetry selections in a week or so. After that, before we get into our drama unit, you guys will have a chance to redo one of your analysis essays for partial credit regained. So that is kind of coming up on the horizon. But let's talk about this week. This week, we're gonna hang out in poetry for a minute here. So this week, go ahead and pick a poem from our unit, one that preferably you know. Well, we only have the ones that are there. Well, I know I gave you guys 10 to pick from, but I believe all of the poems are open. And in fact, let me verify that right now while I'm here. So go ahead and maybe pick some poems that we didn't discuss in our discussion last week. Poems like Caged Bird by Maya Angelou, or Metaphors by Sylvia Plath, or Red Red Rose by Robert Burns, or let's say My Papa's Waltz by Theodore Retke, Birches by Robert Frost. Those were ones that we didn't do last week. So pick a poem we didn't do for our discussion last week and offer an explication. All an explication is, it's basically an analysis. To explicate is another way of saying to explain in understandable terms to the reader what the poem is trying to get across to you. You're analyzing figurative language, maybe rhyme or meter, or structure of stanzas, line structure, things like that. So you're just picking one poem and you're giving like a little mini MLA essay. It's not a formal 75-point analysis essay where you're looking at two pieces of literature. You're just constraining your focus to one of the poems. Again, one that we didn't do for last week's assignment. And you're just giving an explication, an analysis. How does this poem communicate its central ideas? Through what means? Is there rhyming? Is there meter? How do these things work to convey the poem's message? Maybe there is no rhyme or no meter. Maybe it's a free verse poem. How is that free verse poem communicating its central message, themes, or ideas? And I've given you guys a link for you know, a writing assignment about responding to poetry, which is what we're doing. So it's a link from Purdue OWL, which I'm sure you guys have had ample experience with in 1101 and maybe even before. So you'll see the poetry explication assignment. This is due on the 16th, that's Sunday. The instructions are there, giving you the link for the guidance for how to do an explication or an analysis essay in a poem. Giving you guys a reminder in MLA format, there's a link there. Basically, that pertains to your heading, your title, your page numbers. Don't forget to offer in-text citations when you are citing from the poem as well. For poetry, when you cite, it's the author's last name and the line number of the poem. So if you guys want to know more about that, reach out and I'll give you further examples. So that's our explication due Sunday. It's a multi-paragraph, 1-2 page, 12-point times New Roman double-spaced sort of deal there. And then the other thing's kind of a fun thing, if you could call any of this fun. A journal as an engagement activity. Engagement activities, again, are always going to be due Friday. So this one will be due Friday the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. And how fitting, poetry, Valentine's Day, right? But for this, write a 10-line poem. However, you don't have to write it. What do we mean by that? I'm sure you guys have played around with ChatGPT, other open AIs. Ask it to write you a poem or a story. You know, you could just put in some inputs there like, write me a 10-line poem about faith, or write me a 10-line poem about love. And you could be a little more specific than that too. And it'll give you, your output based on your input. So I've given you guys a poem in the explanation for the journal. It's called Asteroid. And I'm not telling you if AI authored it or if yours truly authored it. And when you guys post your, is it AI or is it my poem, maybe guess and see if you guys think that I wrote that or AI wrote that, if that's a human-generated poem or an AI-generated poem. So this is just for fun, guys, just a fun little engagement activity for me to see, is it AI or is it you? And how can we tell the difference? So I look forward to seeing your submissions for that. So yeah, a time where you actually get to use AI and it's all kosher. So that's due on the 14th, Friday. It's called Poetry, AI, or Human, our journal. And then our explication, again, an analysis on a poem from the unit that we didn't do from last week. Just one poem and analyzing certain poetical features. It's not a formal essay where we do, 2 pieces of literature, but it is formal in that it should be MLA formatted. Okay, so make sure that you follow those guidelines there. Okay, 2 assignments this week. Gone over them. And yeah, we are week 6 in, so roughly halfway through the term. Reach out through email if you guys need anything this week. And man, I hope those Chiefs lose the Super Bowl. I'm thinking that that's not going to be the case, but who knows? Catch you later. Peace.